Our next speaker is Chris Pareja. He was running for Congress in the 15th Congressional District. And I'm sorry to say that somebody who's committed to protecting our rights to worship came in third. But he's not done. I also heard him say, next race, different tactics. So we need to remember to get out and vote. Vote God. He is married and he resides in Hayward with his wife and 3 children. So let's bring up Chris Pareja.
Thank you. As we all know, standing here today, the country's at a crossroads, and we really have 2 options. We can lay down quietly and die, or we can come back swinging against these immoral mandates and legislation. I choose to fight. How about you? Over the last few years, I've been preparing to and running for Congress, as was mentioned. And honestly, 5 years ago, I would have had no idea I would have run for office. But 3 years ago, I did something that politicians don't do anymore, and it changed my life. I began reading legislation. And specifically, I read 500 pages of the Unaffordable Health Care Act. And what I saw disgusted and frightened me, to the point where my wife banned me from speaking about politics or health care in the house because I couldn't do it at a level that wouldn't scare our children. It had verbiage about expanding the birth interval, which means that government officials or affiliates could decide that you were having your children too closely together and come to your house and counsel you on how to spread them out more effectively, of course through abortion. It had things that would penalize doctors for seeing the same patient twice in a 30-day span, which would abnormally affect our seniors and our ill. As Christians, we need to be aware of what's happening and actively oppose legislation and politicians who are in conflict with our belief system. But what's interesting is our battle's not a new one. Before the last Freedom Rally, I randomly opened the Bible and it popped open to Maccabees 6. And many of you may not know the story, but government agents at that time were forcing Jews to violate their religious beliefs and eat pork or face death. Government will always be at odds with religion. And the human players may change, but the 2 main characters stay the same.
That's right.
My run for office has been enlightening. I've had the opportunity to meet and pray with people of many denominations, and whether they consider themselves Catholic, Protestant, Baptist, Evangelical, or something else, the citizens have realized this is not just a political battle. This is a spiritual battle.
Amen.
But as I've heard testimony from many people about their faith journey, a common theme has emerged. And in order for us to move from an intellectual relationship with Jesus Christ to a spiritual one, we must be broken. After all, we listen better when we're knocked on our butts, right?
Yeah.
But when we're reborn in Him, we're more aware, we're more focused, and we're stronger. I believe the country's going through that breaking process right now. But the good news is, we know how the story ends. Good will triumph over evil. But we all have a role to play. I have mine, and you have yours too. And our faith leaders have a particularly important role, but many of them are afraid to play their part strongly enough. We need you to lead boldly, but lovingly. You have to speak God's truth and empower your flocks to speak God's truth as well, and you can't be afraid of the conflict. And if you're a layperson following a timid leader, you're going to have to either empower them to lead and lift them up, or you're going to have to lead from below. But it's too important of a time to not fight. We all volunteered as warriors in this battle. There was no draft. And warriors who don't fight are a liability. And warriors get beat up sometimes. Sometimes they lose, as I found out on Tuesday. But as long as you still can stand up, you must. Sometimes when you get beat up, it's to humble you. But more often it's to strengthen you or to strengthen someone else because they've watched you go through the abuse. Regardless, we must embrace the battle. You must stand. You must fight boldly but lovingly. And you have to remember, we must win this fight. Thank you.